Hi there, I'm Krista West of Avlea Folk Embroidery, and this is the October FlossTube. So, I guess before I get started, I have to tell you all the things. So you can find me at the Avlea website, which is the new grown-up person website, www.avleaembroidery.com. And that is spelled A, V as in Victor, L-E-A. It'll be in the notes. What does Avlea mean? For those of you who haven't heard, it means courtyard in Greek. Avli means courtyard in Greek. We say Avlea in English just because I think it sounds nicer. And it's the place when, have I told you guys the funny story about when we were in Athens? I don't know if I've actually told you guys that story. So we'll just launch in and I'll tell you that story. So a couple of years ago, this has been a while ago, we were in Athens with all three of our daughters. It was a family trip. We went and we were in Athens and Thessaloniki, and it was a work trip for me because I was meeting with mill agents in Athens and my brocade supplier in Thessaloniki and the suppliers that I get all the galloons from and things like that. But one day we were in Athens and we had some time to kill, and we were walking around up near the Parthenon. There's a really beautiful neighborhood kind of up there near the Agora, which is the old marketplace. And we're walking along and it's this very swanky Athens neighborhood. And we come to this house and there's this door open, and I've just been dying to go into a house in Athens and be like, what does it look like inside? I'm so curious. And so the door was open and workmen were going in and out. And so I just marched up. My husband and kids are like, stop, stop, stop. What are you doing? And I'm like, you know what? They can tell me no. They can totally tell me no. I will completely respect a no. But maybe they'll be nice enough to let me in, So I'm using my very pidgin Greek, ime Americani, menos din Ameriki. I live in America. Anyways, I'm American. I want to see. And they were like, oh, come in, come in, come in. I go in and oh my word, it's so beautiful the way these houses are organized. And you go in and there's it's like an entryway, but it's like an outdoor entryway. It's not enclosed like our entryways are. And you go in and there's a beautiful central courtyard. And then there's stairs that go up, and the stairs go up to actual enclosed rooms. But the courtyard, this one actually had a tree, a big tree growing up right in the middle of it. And there are these beautiful benches, just these low, simple benches sitting kind of all along around the perimeter, and these beautiful ceramic pots with gorgeous flowers. And that was really that visual image of seeing that interior home courtyard was what completely inspired me to name Avlea. I just loved this idea of thinking of women through the centuries sitting on those benches, chatting and stitching and kids running in and out. And I don't know, just the vibrancy. Anyways, so that was a whole lot of explanation. But yes, so Avlea Folk Embroidery, you can find me at the website. You can also find me on Instagram. On Instagram, I use my actual name, Krista M. West on Instagram. But you can also just search hashtag Avlea Folk Embroidery. You'll find me there. So it's been busy, usually is busy. It's been really fun. I think I mentioned it in the last two FlossTubes, but I had an article published in Taproot Magazine in August, and I had another article published in the Embroiderers Guild of America in their September issue. I've gotten to do an Embroiderers Guild of America Zoom lecture with the Quail Valley chapter in Northern California, in San Francisco. That was super fun. So we got to basically spend an evening I gave a presentation on Greek folk embroidery, and we then chatted and did Q&A. And they have done, I have to tell you about this because it's so cool. They've done this really clever thing and made the most of Zoom lectures. So they decided way back in January, one of their gals was pretty forward thinking, and she's like, I think the shutdown thing's going to be happening for a while. And so what she did, she came up with this entire series, and they call it, I think, the Armchair Stitcher. And every month, their group got together and had either virtually visited a locale or museum or had a speaker in. And they did all sorts of clever things. I think they used a drone to hover over parts of Ireland and things like that. So they had studied all different sorts of areas of embroidery all around the world with this whole aspect of being like armchair stitchers. So they were probably the most like educated and like with it like group that I'd ever spoken to, because they knew a lot of the people, all the players in like sort of the Greek folk embroidery world. They knew Louisa Pessel and they knew some of the American collectors and things like that. So it's a really fun lecture. So I've been really busy with that. Lots of orders coming in. Oh my word. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just can't thank you guys enough. Like I still kind of wake up every day and go, oh, there's orders. Like people are still ordering. I don't know. I guess this, a whole embroidery thing was just kind of, a flash in the pan. I don't know what I expected, but it's pretty exciting that every day now I wake up, I actually had to like I had to figure out where the packing list feature was on my shipping label. Software, and it was like, oh, like now I need packing lists. Like I need to know what I'm sending out to people. And so it's been really, really fun. And I'm definitely seeing an increase in wholesale orders, and that is very exciting. So I have all different shops actually all around the US are now carrying Avlea designs, and it isn't all embroidery shops. Like for example, we just got picked up by this great, really cool shop that actually sells rugs. They're called Gauge Goods, and they're in, I think it's Indiana. I think that's right. Anyways, and so they were getting Avlea kits to sell, I think, in their shop, maybe on their online shop. I don't know. Several people are selling us in their online boutiques, that kind of a thing. And that's been really, really exciting. Bardsley Handwoven in Portland, Oregon recently picked us up. Who else? I'm trying to think this last, what was the one? Fancy Tiger Crafts in Denver. So shout out to all those beautiful shops that are carrying Avlea. That's been really fun to kind of put things together and send them out into the world to shops. But what have we been working on? Let's see. So lots going on with the shops, a lot of orders. And I'm also kind of feeling the pinch because my 11-year-old Georgia like went back to school, and that was great. All in favor, believe me. After being at home with a preteen kid for 1.5 years, yeah, I'm all in favor of the school scene. That's been working great. School's been great. It was like her first year in middle school. And actually, it was so sweet. She showed up at the bus stop near our house the first day, and there were all of her kids from her 4th grade class. So it was just a really smooth transition. Everything's been going great. But I don't have a kid like here that I can boss around for a few hours every week, a couple hours a day to be like packaging kits and making needle cards. And I'm definitely feeling the pinch right now. So anyways, it's a lot of like making needle cards while I watch TV at night, but that's okay because actually I like making needle cards. And I think actually part of why I have trouble even hiring someone. Well, right now hiring is a little tricky because of COVID, and we're kind of in that in-between phase as a small business. Like we have enough work that like I'm definitely feeling the push, but we don't have quite enough work yet, like enough orders yet to like actually like get somebody in to help. And also secretly, it's because I still really like winding floss. I kind of feel like that's my guilty secret, but I really like winding floss, and I'm going to have a little bit of a hard time like giving that up. So I guess I got to do some work surrounding that. But anyways, speaking of floss, I'm kind of like all over the map today. So I'm just warning you, but pretty exciting. I got my entire floss like organized. It's like every couple of months we have to like order more because we're running out of certain colors or certain things are more popular than we expected. And so it's been a learning curve for me, learning how to manage like the floss inventory, make sure that we have enough cones of floss. And then of course, added to that, all of the, as many of you have heard in the news, the global supply chain disruption stuff going on. It's like, we want to make sure we have enough floss for kits because, oh my word, people must stitch, like we have to stitch. This is a high priority for me. So I'll show you here. It's very cool. So I got it all organized and set up this weekend. It was very exciting. So here we go. Let me see if I can show you. Ta-da! The wall of floss. So exciting. Just makes me happy every time I come into the workshop in the morning. I have it like situated so where I can actually see it from my desk, which is probably kind of dorky, but I like looking at my wall of floss. It just makes me happy every time I see it. Plus, I really like that I can see all of the colors and I can start like making connections that I couldn't see when we had them we had them on a rolling cart and I couldn't see everything at once. So seeing them all out there is great. And scene made me think of something. Oh yeah, this is cool. So something I got to kind of help with floss and floss palettes and things like that is Pantone is doing this new thing called a Pantone Color Connect card. Pantone is like those little strips of like all the colors. They look like paint swatches, but they're the Pantone ones that graphic designers and artists and things use. Well, they just made this cool new thing, and it's a little card. It looks like a credit card, and it's got a Q code on it. And you line it up like just so over something that you're trying to figure out what the color is. And then there's an app on your phone, and you like it takes a scan of it, and then it tells you like what the Pantone colors are. Very cool. I am really looking forward to playing around with that thing. That's going to be a lot of fun. That means I could like go out in nature, or I could like see a different textile and be like, oh, what's that color, you know? And then match it to DMC floss. That's going to be really fun for me moving forward as a designer. Well, that's a whole lot about me. How about we talk about embroidery? Because here we are talking about embroidery. Well, the first thing up, and I know I've shown this in a couple of the last FlossTubes, but it's now actually finally available, is Corinthian Bridal Shawl. So the Corinthian Bridal Shawl cushion, well, you could do it as a cushion like I've done. You could also do it as a table runner. It'd be awesome as a table runner, and maybe worked on a little bit skinnier piece of fabric. Oh my word, it'd be amazing. This one I finished as a cushion cover. This is the Robert Kaufman 7-berry paisley prints. I actually have this in 3 colors. Oh, I meant to grab those before I started the FlossTube, but I'm working on using those in other colorways for upcoming projects. In fact, one here on the table I'll show you. This is just an envelope back, cushion back, but the cushion kit, so you can buy just the pattern, you can buy just the download, you can buy the kit that comes with the traditional ground cloth, all the floss, and then you can buy the embroidery kit with the cushion backing if you want this exact cushion backing. And on that, the 2 pieces are hemmed, and then I basted them at top and bottom so that when you're all done with your embroidery, you just simply pop it on the front, stitch around it, turn it inside out, boom, there you go. I have a whole video on that on YouTube. It's the, I think, cushion cover video. Whew, that's exciting. So that is now out. And it's kind of funny. I've been playing around in my living room, and like sometimes I kind of put it this way on the couch. The other day I happened to just toss it in there and I went this way and was like, oh, I think I'm in love. So I've been kind of playing around with it this way. So the design, I really had originally envisioned the design as being a very strong horizontal, but it's kind of surprised me how effective it is vertically. In fact, I feel like this way, with all these really cool little motifs here going upright, it could be an awesome wall hanging. Oh man, that would be really cool too. This is actually, this ranks up there, is probably one of my, oh boy, it's hard to count, maybe one of my top 10 favorite ever designs. I just love stitching this. I found it a perfect combination of like having to follow a pattern and then having parts of it that were more just meditative where I could just get going. Like the little, you can see that border there. There's a lot of just repetitive stuff. And I loved it. Now, anybody who's interested in the photos for the pattern that you'll see on the website and everything like that, you'll see them on my couch in my living room. And those who are going to inevitably ask me, it is a flex steel couch. Big fan of flex steel. I have it actually shown displayed with this pillow behind. This is actually a really beautiful machine embroidered linen. So the base fabric is linen, and it's machine embroidered with, I believe, rayon thread. It's like slightly luminous. It's not really fully metallic, but it's got a definite sheen to it. If anybody's interested, I have a few yards of this left, maybe 5 yards of this left. So if anybody's interested in a pillow kit or like yardage for this, like email me at the Avlea email and let me know. And if enough people are interested, I'll sell it by the yard on the website, because this is just a really awesome fabric. And finding an all linen, but like machine embroidered on linen, it's just really cool. I love machine embroidered linens because you get kind of that sheen and shine from having like a rayon thread, but it doesn't cross over into looking too glitzy and kind of over the top. It's got sort of a quiet luminosity, shall we say. And I love that in a machine embroidered linen. This is a company in New York that when I would be in New York lecturing, back when I did that thing in person, there's a wonderful linen shop in the garment district in New York. And I would always go in and like, you know, get a few yards here and there of stuff that I just like couldn't resist. And that's one of the fabrics. And I still have some. So that's actually would be cool if anybody's interested. Now, a couple more updatey things. I am so excited. The hoop embroidery kits are now screen printed. This has been a huge thing for us. I am so excited. I've talked a little bit about this in other FlossTubes, but just to kind of remind you, up until now, I have been hand stamping every single embroidery hoop kit. The little $26 kits that have the little bamboo hoop. These are surface embroidery, sometimes known as freehand embroidery. They're not cross stitch. But I really wanted to create an embroidery hoop kit like that, kind of like with a beginner or even more experienced person in mind, but with top-notch materials. And so this is Robert Kaufman's Kona Cotton. I've had an account with Kaufman for over 2 decades now because we use their poplins in my tailoring business. And so I have access to buying their fabrics, and getting them directly from Kaufman is like you get really, really good quality from them. And I've always loved their fabrics. They just have really, really consistent quality, really great fabrics. So this is the Kona Cotton, which is actually a quilting cotton, but it's got a loose enough weave that it works. It's kind of a loose but not too loose weave that works really, really well for surface embroidery. So I've been stamping these with archival ink, which is a lot of work, and I end up with a lot of seconds because it's really hard to get an even press on the stamps. So there's a company here, actually literally half a mile from my house, and what they specialize in, they do machine embroidery and screen printing and what's called cut and sew for helping out companies that need like routine like cutting and sewing work done. And they employ, I think 75% of their workforce is developmentally disabled. So they help train people for jobs in production jobs, essentially. And the screen printing side is one of them. So not only am I thrilled to not be stamping these, not that I don't love you all, but this is a lot of work. But I'm also super excited to be supporting a company like that. That just feels like such a good move. And I'm really, really thrilled about that. So those are now all screen printed. I actually have 2 more embroidery hoop designs in process. It's just been kind of busy. And I've got to finish stitching the samples. One of them is a Byzantine Griffin. It's actually off of a 13th century woven silk fragment that's fairly popular in the art history world. It's at least well known. I think its first photographic image of it was like in a 1950s book on textiles from the, I can't remember, maybe University of Chicago. Anyways, and I love it. It's really distinctive, but I'm also sort of aware that like, hey, maybe Byzantine Griffins aren't everybody's cup of tea. They're actually super cool though. They're confronted Griffins with a super cool border that's reminiscent of Byzantine jewels set in things. Very cool. And so I think I'm going to do that as a limited edition kit because I have some really amazing metallic linen. It's not like glitzy weird. It's actually like really cool metallic linen, and I can't get any more of it. So I'm probably just going to do that, like however many we can produce, we're just going to produce, and then that'll be that. But the other one, my working it's a Cypress design. It's this really cool, I actually have a couple of working titles, but it's a really cool Cypress design that has got this really beautiful sort of, it's a cypress, but it almost reminds me of like Indian paisleys. And it dates back from 6th century Syria. There's a very clear Persian influence in the design, but you also see that design moving forward into Byzantine, particularly like fresco work and illuminated borders and things like that. It's very cool. I really like that one. That one's very high on my list. But in the meantime, I have been working on some new stuff. Now, one of the things I've been working on, I think I've mentioned this in a couple of different FlossTubes and maybe in shout outs and Instagram and stuff like that. It was maybe about a year ago, I got a cache of vintage Latvian needlework booklets from the 1940s and 50s, all like black and white. They're just like little loose paper. The paper's like falling apart. And they are just a treasure trove of Latvian designs. really cool. And I was surprised how many of them had a very ancient Roman / Byzantine / Greek kind of feel to them. Some of them were definitely more sort of had sort of a frilly intricacy, for lack of a better word, that sort of associated with more like Romanian, Ukrainian, that kind of embroidery. But some of them had this real decided, like geometric, almost kind of masculine feel. And I was really drawn to them because you guys all know me well enough to know that, like, I mean, give this girl a geometric cross stitch pattern and she's just in her happy place. So one of the little articles in Latvian Needlework booklet, as much as I could tell, because I do not read Latvian, but from what I could tell from the little black and white sketches, it was showing how you could play around with different design elements and lay them out in different layouts. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea. So I'm adapting it, and I'm really happy to show you. This will be the first time. I'm not exactly sure when we're going to release this, but I'm really excited about it. I'm working on the 3rd sample, and I'm almost done. So this design right now I'm calling Rozain, because Rozain in Latvian means rosette. And that's what this is. This is so cool. This is just sort of like, I'm really involved in this pattern right now, as you're going to hear. What it is it's a little tiny rosette motif. And then it's put in a square, and then solid lines of cross stitch are used to create these amazing negative spaces. And I'm just like, wow, I just love it. I can't quite get enough of it. I'm literally stitching my 3rd sample and I still love the design. So that kind of tells you what you need to know. So here's what I'm planning. I'm planning to release it as a bit kit in blue. And then I also did it as a table runner. I love this. Isn't this just the awesomest? Okay, I haven't finished it yet. I need to finish it. But just using that simple little motif and working it over and over again and varying the numbers and how I used it, you just get it's literally this whole new way for me to play with negative space. You could even use, so the way I'm really envisioning this pattern being used is I'll clearly release like kits. I'm going to release a bit kit, the table runner. The one I'm working on right now is an 18 by 18 inch square. So it would be a square that you could turn into a cushion cover, or it could be like a square for a table or like a basket cover, that sort of a thing. But what I love about this design is that it would be an amazing stash buster. So what you could do is you can and also whatever size piece of fabric, you know, we all have those kind of weird little leftover pieces of fabric in our stash. Well, on this design, all you need to do is stitch the outer edge first, and then just go back in and start filling in tiles, like however you want to fill in the tiles. And so really and you don't really even have to get obsessive and count this. I'm actually, on this one, it was easy to count because I was using a bunch of the tiles. On the square one, they don't have the tiles here or here. They just have the outer border. So on that, you can simply just measure. Like you could measure down 12 inches in one direction and 12 inches in the other and just mark it with a little piece of thread and be like, here you go. I mean, so easy, but so cool. I just love this effect. So the other thing I'm going to do, and I've played around with it like different colorways. I tried doing some outlining, but I really, every time I kept coming back to a solid color, that this design just was all about kind of this amazing, sophisticated minimalism. So basically really using a single color, so a monochromatic look and a lot of negative space to create something just really beautiful. I'm really excited about this one. So hope you all are too, because this one's going to be great. And then what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do this. Yep, I'm pretty certain I'm going to. I'm going to release it in both the table runner and the square as designs, and then you can pick what color you want. This is the, wait for it, rosewood, the dark rosewood that y'all know I'm super in love with right now. I'll show you that. It is a really cool kind of cordovan brownie burgundy color, super flexible. I've been really surprised how well it matched. It just plays with other colors really, really well. If this was a person, This would be like the person who's totally conflict averse and is just going to go around and try and make everybody feel happy. That's what this color is like. And it's so much fun to stitch. It has this really, I don't know, there's just something about this color. Anyways, and so what I'll do is I'll offer it in the table runner and the square, but then you can pick, do you want it in the dark rosewood? I did it in the this is in the 930 dark antique blue, which many of you know and love. I really like it too. And it really looks great on the traditional ground cloth. And then the other one the other colorway I'm working on, and I was sort of like, I got into it and was like, am I going to hate this? But actually I'm loving it, is 3787? No, 3787 is like the rosewood. But it's the one that's called something like medium brown gray, which is like the worst color name ever. I'm just here to say, because it's actually this very almost, I mean, it has this sort of like dull bronze kind of look to it. It's got a little bit of a gold undertone. I think it's a little bit more towards sort of the green. It kind of reminds me of like verdigris on old copper things. I mean, it just sort of oozes like old, cool, interesting. And I'm using that. And it's effectively looking like kind of a faded black. It actually reminds me of textiles that you'll see, historic textiles that were naturally dyed, and they were dyed black. And when they fade out to this kind of like browny, greeny, bronzy kind of color that's really gorgeous. And it just sings against the traditional ground cloth. And so it's not really brown, it's not really gray, it's not really black. I'd almost call it like, I don't know. I feel like I should come up with a new color name for it, because whatever it is, medium brown gray, does not come close to describing it. So I've got that working on the Rozain. That one I've just been loving working on. The next one up for release is Cypress Grove, which I showed you in the last FlossTube. That's going to probably release around November 1st. Could I find the sample today when I was getting ready to do a FlossTube? Why no? No, I could not. I could not find the sample anywhere. I don't know what happened to it. I clearly put it somewhere, and now I can't remember where I put it. I am a little discombobulated because we are still in the throes of the window project. Okay, we'll just take a moment here. I hope you guys are all like I need you to be virtually just sort of patting me on the back right now and being like, Krista, you can do it. Krista, you can hang on. You can do it. So the window saga, I'll digress for a moment. So we bought our house in almost exactly 4 years ago, in November of 2017. My husband took early retirement out of his job in Portland, and we were like, awesome. And it was a great thing because we had been talking for a long time in midlife about wanting to kind of do a switch. I'd sort of been like most of the time, mom on deck, doing the food, doing the menu planning, doing all the things, and having my businesses kind of on the side, my tailoring business on the side. And that was okay. But in midlife, like I kind of wanted to be free to just like work and see what I could do with work without having to like, do all this stuff, all the mom stuff. And we were homeschooling, and it was just a lot of mom stuff. And so when he had an opportunity to take early retirement, he's like, listen, he goes, I've been basically out there for 20 years, like doing my job full tilt. He goes, and I'm ready for a change. He goes, and actually doing the grocery shopping and taking over homeschooling and feeding the kid that's still left at home, like sounds awesome to me. And I'm like, great. So we really did this like very midlife shift. And I'd done a bunch of reading on midlife shifting. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of new stuff coming out that, men go through a midlife shift just as much as women do. And in fact, in one book I read, it even said that when you hit midlife, your brain goes through a rewiring that is on the same magnitude of adolescence. And I really felt that. I mean, I love being a mom, and I like to cook, and I loved running my house. Like that was like, I loved kind of being a homemaker and all that stuff for years and years and years. But boy, when I hit my late 40s, I was just like, I'm ready to go. Like, I really want to like just focus on work and not feel like I just get into a project and like somebody needs something. And so it ended up being this really great shift, but we needed to find cheaper housing to make it all work. And so we moved an hour south because the Portland housing market, insert eye roll, crazy. I grew up there, so I can say that. I can be super snobby about Portland because I'm a Portland native, you know. So anyways, so we moved down to Salem, and we both kind of had this dream for years and years to like own an old home. We'd owned a 1940 home, 1941, and we loved it. We'd renovated that little house, and it was really, really a great project. But when we moved to Salem, Oregon, I was like, okay, we've got this like we have warehouse shelving, people. Lots and lots of warehouse shelving and lots of fabric. And I looked into commercial space and it was expensive. And then I was like, okay, let's look at houses with big basements. And so we found this fabulous 1923 house with a very large 1,400 square foot basement, which is like amazing. And I have 8-foot ceilings in here, so it's pretty great. But the previous owner, I think the most charitably way I can say this is that he should have his old house driver's license revoked. Lot of remodeling. By the time we got here, the house had sat on the market for 7 months, vacant. There were rats in the attic. He had thought that the solution to heating issues in an old house was to literally just bust part of the wall through in the dining room and just put a mini split in there in the beautiful historic dining room. Thank goodness he didn't damage the sconces that are like original to the house. And he covered up with carpet and just so much remodeling. But one of the worst things that the previous owner had done is they had taken all the historic windows out of the house and replaced them with cheap vinyl. And even, I mean, the vinyl windows were maybe 5 or 6 years old. They were already starting to fall apart. We have got windows that literally just fall out of their casings, partly because like older homes settle, like they're a work in progress, very long progress. And also we found when we went to go buy the house that the house is on the city's national register. The city's historic register, not like the national register. But the city of Salem has one. And we were basically sort of under orders to replace all the windows with historically accurate wood windows. And actually like very historically accurate, custom built, single pane, the whole 9 yards. No triple pane glass, no e-glass, no nothing. Like they can only be single pane. And the great thing was the city has this grant program. So for the first couple of years, we were able to do it room by room. And we'd gotten through 4 rooms. Like every 6 months, we could, apply for a grant and they'd help us do, room by room. They'd pay part of it. Well, last summer, our window guy got so busy. He's like, listen, I've got to do your whole house in one fell swoop. We still had like 28 windows to go in the house. And so for the last, and so we chatted all about this in the spring. We got on his calendar for August. And I was under the impression that we were going to have this project wrapped up as of about August 20th. Oh, wait. What time is it today? I believe it is October 5th. And I still have windows all over my house and in my workshop. So it's been a little bit discombobulating for me because I am not a person who does well with having my space messy. Messy just doesn't work for me. It makes me feel cluttered in my mind and I just hate it. So anyways, but the window project, we're supposed to, cross our fingers, get the remaining batch of windows to paint because we do all the painting work ourselves so that we can like use the historic oil enamel paint, all the things. And, oh, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's my alarm going off. We'll just ignore it. And so this weekend should be the push to get through all the last of the windows and get them all prepped. And then they have to be glazed, and then they have to be installed. It's a process. I'm going to be very, very happy when we're all done with it. And also, it'll be really great, too, because all the Avlea photos are going to look so much better. Because in a lot of my photos, you'll notice that I try to keep the windows kind of fuzzy. It's because we've got those crappy vinyl windows. Once we have the really beautiful historic wood windows, it'll be so much nicer for photographing things like, it's natural sunlight coming in and stuff like that. So anyways, that was a big digression about the windows. I don't know if you really wanted to hear about my windows, but there's the window saga. Very top of mind for me right now. So let me talk a little bit about the next things coming up. So Cypress Grove. Oh, I know why I was telling you the window story. It's because I couldn't find my Cypress Grove sample. It's somewhere here and I can't find it. I'll find it. It'll turn up. But after Cypress Grove, next up will be, let me grab it, Noxos Lattice. This one is just fabulous. For those of you who loved Aegean Octagon, which is another long table runner that uses like a full, almost half a yard piece of fabric, this is another one like that. This one is worked in the classic like red color that's used from the island of Naxos. The island of Naxos does these really cool geometric designs. They're very distinct. Like once you have seen some Naxos embroidery, you can't like unsee it. Anytime you see it after that, you're like, oh, Island of Naxos, all over design. Yep. They're very distinctive, often red, and often these repeating designs. So this one's going to come up next. This will be another great one for like using as a stash buster because the motif repeat is so small. You could work a smaller table mat. You could work it in, I don't know, you could even work it in a couple of different colors. You could, you know, choose to work your outer border in a different color. There's a lot of flexibility in this pattern, but also I wanted another fairly large table runner because I do a lot of like smaller table mats just because a lot of people don't want to commit, but I like to keep a good selection of like larger table runners because a lot of us like those. Like I have an entryway table and like I need a table runner like of this size to like make a visual impact. So that's Noxos Lattice. That's coming up. Let's see what else. Oh, okay, this is cool. Adivarian Star and Vine is the one. I think I showed you this in the last FlossTube, and I'll be releasing this too really soon. This one's just gorgeous. This is one, oh, and I think I actually have it upside down. These are the designs that are done on bed tent curtains in the island of Rhodes, and I think on the island of Kos as well. And they take this motif and they just go, they do it over and over again. Oh, so stunning. So I'm actually envisioning this as either a kind of cool vertical cushion or a wall hanging, or this would probably also make an awesome frame piece. I may just decide to do this as a framed piece just because it's so intricate and beautiful. I could really see that being very successful, like hung at eye level on a wall. I feel like that would just be, you know, or sorry, eye level at a wall would be really, really cool. And on this one, I intentionally chose a non-standard color palette. I was looking at my floss cones one day, and this is the 931, no, 93, I think it's the 931 medium antique blue, and then the 3032 medium mocha brown. And I just thought they just worked together. I just really, really liked the colors. I think the originals are usually worked in reds and greens. And you see a lot of red and green in Greek folk embroidery, but to those of us in America in the 21st century, kind of reads Christmas. So it's hard for me to use those traditional red and green colorways because then people think they can only have their embroideries out at Christmas, which they shouldn't. They should have them out all year long. So next thing up is, this is super awesome. So those of you who have seen the pomegranate collection designs, those are the $5 download patterns for which I don't have a stitch sample. So we just do this for $5. I had one of our people stitched it. This is Lori's design of olive branch, which I thought was so cool as a little all over table mat. Really effective, really cool energy on this one. Kind of like a grid, kind of, it looks good vertically, it looks good horizontally. Very, very cool. So I just kind of wanted to see where that would go. And so she turned that in. So we'll be photographing this and possibly turning it into a kit if there's enough interest. Then, two last things. So one of them is, those of you who have seen me with my embroidery bag in my Instagram photos and when I've shown you here my kind of minimal embroidery setup, I've mentioned a number of times that I have this old bracelet that I use. It's an old rosewood bracelet that I use as my floss keeper. The bracelet broke, and when my husband tried to mend it, it like completely shattered because it's like over 30 years old. So I was very sad and bereft about losing my special bracelet floss winder, but my husband had this great idea. He's like, why don't you just go order wooden rings online? And I'm like, that's a great idea. So this is what I found to replace it. And I'm just here to tell you, if you're looking for a natural, non-plastic way to store your floss, I love these. I got a pack of like 12 of them on Amazon for like, I don't know, $7 or $8. Their design is like craft projects, things like that, but it's a single piece of wood, which my husband tells me means it will not break. And then you can even put a little beeswax or something on it and it will like become more like finished and look a little bit more finished. But I love these. They're small. They fit in my embroidery bag really well. But the thing I really like about them, they came in a pack of 12. So I'm able to actually kit up the floss for a lot of the designs that I have in process and put a ring with all the floss like ready to go. So I can just like grab my sample kit and there I go. I don't have to like put it all on my bracelet like I used to have to. So anyways, the rings, very cool. Then the last thing, sorry, I know this one's gone a little bit longer than usual, but you know, like I said, I'm a little bit more scattered because of this whole window project. So the last thing, I'm really curious to get everybody's take on this one. I feel like I have to kind of put this one out there. I've been doing some design work and I came up with this new all over design that I really like because it's got this just really cool energy. It's like really cool. And I'll show it to you so you can see it because I think you should see it. So it's got these really cool, almost like, well, let me make sure that's not there, little columns set within these medallions that are like connected with these diamonds. And then they're put in a half drop motif repeat. That's a little different from the original design. The original design was a little bit messy. Couldn't really decide what it wanted to be. And so I cleaned it up and I made it a little simpler. And okay, but here's something I'm curious about. What do you guys think of this colorway? I've been trying to do some things that maybe are a little bit like not always following the traditional color palette of reds, blacks, blues, that kind of a thing. And so I actually happened to look on my floss wall. And this is with the, it's a 502 blue green. And then like a light alizarin. And then using the rosewood dark to outline it. So let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of curious if you guys think, does this look weird? Like, is the green, the kind of blue green and the pink, is it too 80s? Oh, now that I look at it, oh my gosh. I'm kind of seeing that now. I don't know if I can unsee that. Shades of high school. Let me tell you. So I don't know. Like, is this a color that you like? Do you like the design? Would it be cooler in a different colorway? I was actually thinking about doing it in blues. I've been thinking about releasing it as a bit kit, but it might also be a little bit more effective as a slightly larger table mat, like say Tansy or one of those, because some of these designs, the proportion's really important. Depending on the size of the design, you need to see a fair amount of it for it to like work together. Some of the bit kits are great because they're like small designs that really work and they're kind of more intricate and tiny. But these larger motif designs, especially things with like medallions, they need a little more space to kind of breathe, you know? So anyways, so I'm really curious what everybody thinks about this design. I'm going to show it to you closer. You can comment in the YouTube comments or you can email me. This one's called Ionian Columns. That's the working title. May change it. But again, very curious what y'all think. I played around with a bunch of different colors and I just couldn't quite get it. Anyways, so would love to hear your feedback on that. And that is another FlossTube. I just want to thank you all for joining me. I want to thank you all for your support of Avlea. You know, every order that comes in, every time I see someone get a download pattern, it just makes me smile. It makes me so happy that so many of you are embracing the whole world of folk embroidery, because with all of us working together, like we are passing this entire canon of folk embroidery on to the next generation. And this is no small thing. It's one thing for me to, you know, sit here and like design and do all my things and blah, blah, blah. But it's a whole nother thing for all of you to be out there stitching. That's the magic. That's the real magic of like passing these designs on to the next generation and keeping them alive for humanity, which I just think is like so cool. Anyways, that made me feel all inspired. I hope it did you too. So thank you again for joining me, Krista West with Avlea Folk Embroidery. Happy stitching!